Welcome to the Grow Your Independent Consulting Business podcast. I'm Melissa Lieberman, a fellow IC and business coach. On this podcast, I teach you to become a consistently booked independent consultant without becoming a pushy salesperson or working 24/7. If I can do it, you can too. Listen on to find out how. Welcome to the podcast. I can't wait to share today's episode with you. We're going to be talking about a consulting business plan, an independent consultant's specific business plan. Can be such a mystery type of a concept, but once we break it down today and I teach you what I mean by the bottom up type of a business plan, you'll see how impactful that this can be for your business, for you to make sure that you create a business that you love, that you're growing, you're scaling, you're creating a direction that you want to be creating, and not creating some kind of a monster, a Frankenstein type of a business that you didn't intend to, and quite frankly, that you hate operating. We don't want to get you into that spot. I work with a lot of clients who come to me and say, I've been doing this for 10 years, or I've been doing this for 20 years, 15 years, and it's a mess. I dread working in this business every single day. And I didn't mean to get here, but just over the period of time, it kind of accumulated and took a life of its own. And so can we work on fixing it? And so that's what we work on together. But for you, whether you're in that spot where you want to revisit some of the things that you've created and get back into the direction that you really want to be heading, or if you're newer to your business and have had a few projects under your belt and you want to really set the stage to create this business in a way that is sustainable, in either of those cases, this episode is for you. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, the bottom up independent consultants business plan. So when I start meeting with new prospective consulting clients, so again, I'm a coach for independent consulting business owners like you. So when I meet with other business owners like you, one of the questions I ask them, either, when we first meet or early on in our work together, tell me about your business plan. Oftentimes, whether it's someone who's been an independent consultant for 6 months or 6 years, they look at me a little bit with, like a deer in the headlights. And honestly, for me too, when I was fully running a consulting practice, before I transitioned into coaching, I had no business plan. I didn't even know what that meant. When I thought of a business plan, and you might be in the same boat, I was a political science major in college, so I never had to do this. But my roommate was in the business school, and she would come home with this project where she had to create a formal business plan with all these formal sections. And quite frankly, that never became a business. It was an exercise, right? But that's sometimes what we think of when we think of a business plan, maybe some project you had in college, or maybe you think of a business plan as something needed to secure funding for a startup. That was my other main exposure to business plans when I was in corporate, of, contributing to planning and pitching to get funding for the startup that I helped to create and grow. So for you, what do you think of when you think of a business plan? When you think of them in that way, it kind of feels daunting, feels kind of like this project you're going to be graded on, either by a professor or by some venture capital, private equity investors, whatever it is that you might be having in your head about a business plan. Let's just set those aside, because today I'm going to share with you a really simple way for you to create and maintain an effective business plan for your independent consulting business. And by effective, I mean that it's simple, doesn't take a lot to create, doesn't take a lot to maintain. And ultimately, it helps you as a framework to know what the results are that you want, and then to drive yourself and your business toward those results. And by results, I mean financial results, schedule, what your schedule looks like as a business owner and as an employee in your business, as a consultant in your business, and the impact that you want to make. That's all we need. We don't need some sexy, 29 to 50 page business plan that would meet all the criteria that a professor would be looking at or a private equity investor would look at. What we're looking at is a framework from which you can run your business and get very clear on the results you want to be creating and measure yourself against what percent complete you are toward those results. That's it. So hopefully we're clear on what the word business plan means now, and we can dive into today's agenda. Today's agenda for our podcast is 4 parts. First, we're going to talk about, ultimately, we're talking about what are the components of your bottom-up business plan. So the 4 components are, number 1, defining the type of work you want to be doing. Number 2, aligning your ideal schedule. Number 3, aligning your plan to your financial goals. And number 4, defining who you need to become in order to hit this plan. So I'm going to walk you through each of these 4 in detail. And just to be very clear, I've put them in this very specific order on purpose. A lot of times we think about maybe the financial goals first, or we think about what type of work we want to be doing. And then we sort of try to fit it into our ideal schedule. And we never think about who we need to become to hit the plan. So I put it in this very specific order on purpose. So let's walk through it in that order for you. But first, I did want to set a little bit more context, and then we'll go into number 1. And that context is, this is your plan. And so you get to decide what period of time you want to create it. If you're in an earlier stage of business, you want to make out this plan as you're thinking about the steps I'm giving you for a 12-month period, because you're just not, you haven't maybe tested out a lot of different types of engagements or types of clients yet. So a little bit more variety and a little bit shorter runway could benefit you. If you've got some history in your business, you may want to build this out. Like I do this in 3-year increments for my business because I've got history and I know what I love doing. I know what I don't love doing as much and have a much clearer under some of those failures under my belt. And so I love doing this in a 3-year runway, a 3-year plan. So I've got some room to maneuver and set a really lofty high goal and give myself some space to hit that goal. So for you, as you're thinking about the kind of the time frame of the business plan and the steps I'm about to share with you, those are some things you may want to consider, some considerations as you're thinking about the time frame of this. So with that, let's dive into the first kind of bucket, the first category, the first step of your business plan, and that's to define the type of work you want to be doing. Do you want to be doing long-term, multi-quarter, even multi-year engagements? And if so, why? Why do you want that? Sometimes the answer is, I just don't want to be nervous that I don't know where the money's coming from. That might not be the best business plan that you put in place. It might be that you book a longer term client to give yourself some room to maneuver and move into the business model that you want. But get really honest with yourself about what it is that you want and why you want it. Do you want those type of long-term engagements because you love them or because you think it'll make you feel less nervous? Why are you selling yourself short if you're just doing something because you want to feel less nervous? There's lots of other better ways to not feel nervous besides setting yourself up for work that you don't like to do. Do you want to have some kind of ongoing retainer-based advisory work? Do you want strategy work that you hand off for someone else to execute? Or do you want to do the strategy and the execution? Like really ask yourself what kind of work, what is the nature of work that you want to be doing? Do you want to have one client at a time where you really dive deep? Do you want to have 5 clients at a time where you have more variety? Really ask yourself what it is that you want. Put this stuff off the table for the moment about whether this is practical or realistic or a good idea. Don't do that to yourself. Don't crush your dreams before you even start by basically telling yourself it's not available to you. So why even think about it? That's terrible. Don't do that. Think about what your dream business is. What do the dream clients look like? What do the dream engagements look like? And figure that out because so many of us as consultants, independent consultants, approach our business backwards. We accept whatever comes to us as clients. We accept whatever comes to us as types of engagements. We accept whatever comes to us in terms of how many clients we have or how long the engagements are, or how much even we're paid for the engagements. And that becomes our business plan. That's backwards. Again, you might take things in the short term to give yourself some runway, but go figure out what kind of business it is that you want and be honest with yourself. And then let's reverse engineer for you how to get it. Don't just accept whatever comes across. You're not the kind of person who does that. So don't do that to yourself in the business. You don't have to. So begin with that end in mind and strip away whatever feels practical or realistic or that you should be doing and get super clear on what it is that you really, really want. Okay, that's the first step. The second step is to figure out, so now you know exactly what you want to do in terms of the type and the nature of work. You might have one long-term client because you love your reasons for that, or you may want to move into more kind of shorter term engagements, whatever that looks like. The next step for you is to build that into an ideal schedule. So look at your schedule over the next quarter or year or couple of years and really think about how you want to do business. Do you want to take off a couple of months a year? Maybe December and June, I don't know, July, August. Maybe you want to take a week off every month. So you work the first 3 weeks of the month and then you take the fourth week off. I have a client who does that. Maybe you want to only work on Monday on your business, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for clients, and have Friday off. What is your ideal schedule? Again, we do this such a backwards way most of the time. We think, well, let me figure out how to make all of this work in a way that I'm not miserable. That's a shitty way to approach it in terms of a business plan, right? Of course, you can figure out how to make everything work. But that's not what we're doing here. We're figuring out what's your ideal schedule. What do you want? How do you want to be working? How much space do you want in your life to do other things? You're a business owner. You get to decide. So write it down. Then we can reverse engineer how you get it. But at least be honest with yourself. This is what I would love to create. Might not happen next quarter, but I know I could get there in the next 18 months. But be honest with yourself. This is what I would love. Maybe it's possible to get that. But when you just decide up front, oh, it's probably not possible for me to have what I want, so I'm not going to be disappointed by even trying, then you're just failing ahead of time. Don't do that. Okay, I'm on a bit of a soapbox today. I want you to have what you want to have in your business. And this is the way to get there. So this is why I'm so passionate about it. Okay, the third step here with your business plan is to align your business to your financial goals. So you know what type of work you want to be doing. Maybe it's some advisory on retainer. Maybe it's some strategy work that you hand off to someone else to implement. Maybe it's doing strategy and implementation, whatever the nature of the work is that you're doing. Nope, that's what lights you up. You know that. You know what your ideal schedule is now. So you kind of know what your working weeks and time is in your business that you want to set up as your framework. And now you want to just double check this against your revenue goals. So it's great. It's like, okay, well, how much would I need? So here's what my lay of the land looks like for the next 12 months, let's say, when I'll be working, when I won't be working, what kinds of work I'll be doing. Maybe I've got some gaps in between projects, whatever it is that you've designed. Then you just go to work figuring out how are you going to layer in the pricing models that get you to the place where you've married together you achieving your revenue and income goals with what you see to be aligned to the value you're delivering to your clients. You can go back to last week's episode for the formula and the process of figuring out what that value and the pricing would be. And then you've basically created a model that is doing work that you love to do on the schedule you want to deliver it on. And you've figured out how that would work for you financially. And again, don't forget the income side of this. We're talking about revenue. You might have a very lean business with very little expense. And so your revenue and your income are fairly close. Or you might have designed a business model that has some some subcontractors or other people delivering or things that you're outsourcing, do not forget the profitability side of this. Don't design something that is generating a lot of revenue and very little income. We definitely don't want that. Okay. So again, I put this purposefully on step 3, not step 1, because you can get creative to figure out how doing the type of work you want to do on the schedule you want to create can support the financial goals that you have. So that's step 3. And if you need a little bit more detail around how to get to step 3 in terms of, okay, I know these high level financial goals map up. What would I do in my business to hit these goals? Go back to episode 64. I talked with you kind of another layer under the financial goals about how to create your business development metrics. Okay, not necessary for this though. Keep listening. You can put that on your list if you haven't listened to it already as a next step. Okay, so with that, we've done step 1, 2, 3. Step 1, again, what is the nature of the work you want to be doing? Step 2 is what is the schedule you want to have as a business owner and employee of one in your business? And then thirdly is mapping that to figure out how are you going to hit your financial goals, doing that type of work on that schedule. And then the fourth and oftentimes most important part of this business plan is to get very clear on who you need to become in order to make this business plan a reality. The version of yourself who is running your current business, who is delivering for your current clients, who is working on the schedule that you're working on, who is creating the amount of money that you're creating, is a reflection of the current way you see yourself, how you think about yourself, and your current mental models. It's based on what you think is possible for you in your business. It's based on what you think you're capable and not capable of. Your current results, which if you're listening to this episode, are not the results you want to continuously create. They may be amazing results, but you're wanting to bring your business to the next level where it's more sustainable, where it's more predictable, where you're making more money, where you have more flexibility in your life, where you have more impact. Even if you have amazing results right now, we're not trying to recreate those. The version of you who's creating those is the version of you who thinks in the way you think right now. We want to get to the place where we're really clear on what you need to be changing about the way you think and the way you feel in order to get to that next level. Again, your current results are a reflection of your current mental model. What are you thinking about yourself? What are you thinking about your clients? What are you thinking about the value and the impact of your offer? How are you managing your emotions? Are you avoiding feeling overwhelmed, avoiding feeling confused, avoiding feeling uncertain, unsure, self-doubting? Are you able to redirect yourself? That stuff happens pretty much at every level of business, but are you able to redirect yourself? Notice that and redirect purposefully to create confidence and commitment and capability on a daily basis. So this fourth part of your business plan revolves around you getting very clear on the version of you who has created this business that you just described in the first 3 steps. What is that version of you thinking? What is that version of you feeling? What is that version of you not thinking? What is that version of you doing? What is that version of you not doing? How are you seeing yourself? How are you seeing and thinking about your clients in a different way that up-levels the results that you're creating and enables you to get to that, whatever you've designed in those first 3 steps and create those results on autopilot? So this is such a crucial piece of your business plan to get crystal clear about the version of you you've heard me refer to before, your future self, who has achieved this business plan and is the version of you who's this is like what happens with you and your business on default, even if you weren't really trying. It's like the autopilot. And then you can do this again, right? You've got to get really crystal clear on who you need to be in order to create those results that you're not creating those results and then somehow you've arrived at being that person. It always requires you being courageous and showing up in a different way, thinking in a different way in order to get to the results that you're trying to create that are different than what you've created already. So those are the 4 components of your business plan. And I want to share with you a couple of traps. We want to avoid these things. Look, this is a living plan. This is something you want to set up for yourself. Again, what you're delivering and what the schedule looks like and how the financials map against it and who you're being to get all of those things. You're going to fail. You're not going to hit it the first time, like the first quarter. Then the first quarter, when you're executing against this business plan you created, you might fail miserably. That's great news. Because number one, it says to you, you know what? I set something that's a high bar for myself. I didn't just create a slam dunk to make myself have this false sense of achievement. I created something that is causing me to stretch. So that's why it's great news. The other great news is if you fail is that you get so many inputs about what could be adjusted. So you want to fail. When you fail, you want to evaluate what does it mean that I failed in terms of like what went right and what didn't go right? Because I guarantee it's not 100% that you failed in those categories we were talking about, those 4 categories. Then you want to really figure out where am I going to iterate? What am I going to adjust? What am I going to do more of that was working? What am I going to do less of? What am I going to replace? So you just keep repeating over and over again, whatever your plan is that you're executing against to achieve that ultimate business model and business plan we've described. Just know that this is not set in stone. It's not going to be perfect. And we want to avoid the traps of thinking it needs to be perfect, which creates overanalyzing, overcomplicating. We want to avoid that trap. And we also want to avoid the trap of setting up something that just fails ahead of time because you don't want to feel disappointed or like you're a failure because you didn't hit the goal immediately. So those are the traps that you want to avoid as you're setting up this business plan, this business model for yourself. And as a next step, this is the type of work that I do one-on-one with my clients. You can go put this into action, but I find that it helps so often to have a sounding board so that you can get further faster with fewer mistakes. So we can challenge you, poke holes in your logic, and help you create that clarity and direction and a plan for what you never even imagined was possible, let alone for you. You can have so much more than you've got right now, whether it is financial or whether it is flexibility or peace of mind or impact for your clients and for yourself and for your family. So if you're interested in talking with me about what that might look like for you specifically, you can go grab a time off my calendar at consultmelissa.com. And in the meantime, be sure to go take that independent consultant's predictability assessment. It'll help you to look at 4 key areas in your business. This business plan is infused throughout those 4 key areas, and it will help you uncover where you might have some gaps in your business that are creating less predictability than you could have, and really pinpoint those for you so you know exactly what to do next. It gives you really good next steps and resources so that you can go address those areas that are holding you back in terms of predictability and ultimately make more money and have more impact and more freedom and flexibility for yourself in your business. So those are the 2 next steps I recommend for you. Go do this work that I just gave you in this business plan so that you do have the clarity and you know exactly what the direction is that you're headed for your business. And you're not just kind of taking what you get and trying to make it work. You don't need to do that anymore. So go make the business plan for yourself. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care.
Thanks for joining me this week on the Grow Your Independent Consulting Business podcast. If you liked today's episode, I have 3 quick next steps for you. First, click subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to make sure you don't miss future episodes. Next, leave me a review in your podcast app so other independent consultants can find and benefit too. And finally, to put the ideas from today's episode into action, head over to melissalieberman.com for the show notes and more resources to help you grow your consulting practice from your first few projects into a full-fledged business. See you next week.